Hello and welcome to the FEZ show on this bright Monday morning on the 1st of June 2020. Can we believe we are already in June? On today's show, we'll be reviewing the 6th round of the Race at Home Challenge, and with me to do so is Jack Pickering and Edward Hunter. Morning, boys.
Good morning.
Hey, Jack.
It's good to see you. I can't believe, as I said, we're in June. We've been in this lockdown/pandemic. Well, I suppose we're easing the lockdown now, Jack. But yeah, it's been 2 months, 2 and a bit months.
Yeah, and I still haven't used my government allocated exercise allowance, so it's gone well for me. But yeah, no, to be honest, it's been more of the same. I just sit in my room the majority of the time, so it's just more of the same. I've got lots of uni stuff to do, so yeah, it keeps me busy.
Keeping you busy. I think this is our 35th show now, Ed. So a lot of shows. We started this back, I think it was like the 6th, 4th, 5th, round about out of April. So we're heading on 2 months now for doing this show. So and we've had some incredible support, and obviously the Discord channel, and the increase of likes and Twitter mentions. It's been great. It's been great to hear so many positive things about the show over the last couple of things, Ed.
Yeah, not really much to add to that, I'm afraid. But yeah, it's always good to have more people around and watching our ramblings.
Yes, I know. Watching us talk. I don't know how people. We thank you so much because.
Why do they put up with it?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Like, they choose half an hour of their day they spend listening to three guys, or sometimes girls if we have Jasmine on, and hopefully Abby in the future for future shows, who's also part of our team. Just ramble about Formula E for half an hour, and people seem to like it. People seem to enjoy it. We don't know why.
Yeah, I'm surprised nobody's complained about your singing yet either.
Yeah, and we thank you for it because all the nice comments that we get, it's a massive appreciation. But let's get on with the actual rambling and with the actual Formula E talk today. So we're reviewing New York, the 6th round, and it wasn't too bad of a race, Jack. There was a little bit of carnage at the front, and I really feel for Maximilian Gunther because, man, qualified well, was P2, was I think P3, but promoted to P2 because of Pascal Wehrlein's penalty for punting him off in Berlin last week. Makes a good start, but then it was one of the Venturis, I think Mortara or Neil Yarni, I think both of them going into each other sort of like punted Gunther off.
Yeah, I might be getting this confused with the sim race. I'm not 100% sure, but one thing that I do remember was I think there was a Techeetah involved as well. I'm not 100% sure.
There might have been Da Costa. I think Da Costa might have gone into him as well.
Yeah, either that or I think I might be getting confused with Nuno Pinto in the sim race. But I'm not 100% sure. But no, there was an accident in turn 1 in both races. Both of which spun out the guy in who started in position 2. Yeah, it's disappointing because this means that Max Gunther, who was like, you wouldn't have said anyone else would have won the championship after round 2 when he was 50 points up. He'd won the practice race. He'd won the first 2 races of the season. He was well on his way to winning this, and now he's basically out of it. There's 1 point between Stoff and Pascal at the top of the table, which is going to be very exciting for the final 2 rounds of the season this weekend. But you do feel for Max Gunther because this was probably his opportunity to close in on it, and he's missed his opportunity. That said, though, Stoffel Van Dorn won the race, so I would just like to pick up one of my trophies and just
pat yourself on the back.
Academy.
Yeah. You finally got another.
I'm back, baby.
Another one right of who was going to win. So I'll tell you what, you must be 4 for 5 on predictions of who is going to win the race, which is pretty impressive.
I think I'm 3 for 5. I got
because app doesn't count.
Yeah. Because I said apps last week, and we saw what happened there.
That would be
and
the
then
wrong one.
The week before, I think I said Van Dorn again, and it was Pascal Wehrlein who won. So very happy to get back to winning ways, but I've got to predict 2 at the end of the week and see if either of them are right.
Yeah, let's see. Obviously, as I said, I feel for Gunther, like, in the racing standards, like, I don't understand why there was such, like, this banzai move going down into turn 1. Like, it was just not necessary, Ed?
Yeah, I feel it was more of a track design thing because you didn't quite see the same problem in the first corner in Berlin, for instance, where it's quite open. And, we saw some foul play in Berlin as well from guys in the back who got grid penalties, which is something I think, worth touching on at least, that they are starting to enforce penalties for poor racing etiquette in both the sim racers race and the Formula E drivers race. So Gunther really just lost out in that opening thing. Like Pico said, the same thing happened in the sim racers race where I think Peter Briljak went for a sort of marginal move on, was it Lucas Muller? And him and Muller ended up just getting stuck at almost to the back and having to fight their way through. So that was the interesting part of the sim racers race, I guess. But the FE drivers race, it really cleared the way for Van Dorn to romp away up front. And then I think it was Roland and Wehrlein who basically fought for second place for the majority of the rest of the race. And I think Yanni ended up being overtaken by both of them.
Yeah, that was really good. Obviously, yeah, because obviously Van Dorn from then, Jack, went on. Like, he was in a class of his own 10, 15 odd seconds up the road. But there was a really good battle between Verlaine, who's obviously coming through the pack, obviously Yanni, who went into second, and obviously that battle with Roland. It was some really good racing for a couple of laps.
Yes, it was. This weekend was the race winners run away at the front. But in both races, you had Stoff in the drivers' race, and you had Kevin Siggy in the sim racers race. And touching on that turn one instant in the sim racers race, I was gutted for Lucas Muller because I always root for an underdog. So I've kind of been rooting for him this season in the sim racers challenge. So I didn't realize how the format worked in terms of the sim races thing. So the winner takes all thing next Sunday is going to be really exciting. But no, in the drivers' race, that battle for second was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I don't think anyone would have said Neil Yanni would have been second for the majority of that race, and he did a fantastic job. And I was gutted that he couldn't hold on in the end. And I think he made a banzai move which backfired on the final lap, which demoted him to fifth, which is unfortunate. But and Pascal Wehrlein made his way back up to second, and then Ollie Rowland third. But also with Gunter being punted round at turn one, and I think him and De Vries were like touching front ends. So that sounds wrong.
Don't cross the streams.
I'm gonna go. Yeah. I'm gonna go for it. They were going into each other like that for about 10 seconds before they were able to go back around. For Gunter to actually finish that race in P12, it was it was a phenomenal drive from Max Gunter. But yeah, it was disappointing that he is basically out of the championship hunt now.
Yeah, it's a shame. I suppose it is a 2-horse race. I know there is double points on the last race, but it's unlikely, Ed, I think, that Gunther will be able to, even because, like, you're still going to be expecting Van Dorn and Gunther, not Gunther, and Wehrlein to be there. So I think it's unlikely Gunther's going to be there. And in terms of the sim race, because I know you love the sim race, because it was interesting, but I think that's just a 1-horse race really now. I think that's just Kevin Siggy's to lose. I think he might be able to not even turn up next weekend, and he could still walk away with the title.
I don't think it's quite that way, because I think what Pico was alluding to there was they are doing a sort of winner takes all kind of thing. But I think Lucas Muller might still be just about in, and Peter Britt might just about be in touching distance. I'd have to check the points. I think Joshua Rogers got a podium, so I'm not sure if he's still in it or not. But yeah, it is looking like Kevin Siggy's to lose, to be honest. And he's definitely, I think they were saying that he was basically got two hands on the trophy. Whereas in the Formula E drivers' race championship, I guess, even though there's no real prize up for grabs, it is looking a bit closer between Wehrlein and Van Dorn. Like you say, Gunther really needs both of them to basically non-score in both races, I think, to stand any kind of chance at this point.
Yeah, so this is basically how I see it with the sim race. So there's only one race left of the race at home championship. And then the top 24 from the championship will go into a race on Sunday, and whoever wins that one will win the. It's basically winner takes all. They get the FE drive. In terms of that means that Kevin Siggy has won the 7-race championship, but that actually in the end means nothing. So
Is that right?
It's it's very confusing, but that's what I got from Saturday's race. I could be wrong. I genuinely could be wrong, but
Because
I believe Kevin Siggy has won the championship. And so the top 24 go into winner takes all on Sunday, and I think there's over 30 points between him and Lucas Muller now, which means that the championship has ended in terms of who wins it. But then they all go into this race on Sunday where, and anything can happen. And actually, I believe friend of the show, Remco Major, he's 17th in the championship. So if 7 people get more points than him come the end of Saturday's race, I believe Remco can partake in that Sunday race. But I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me, but I believe that's correct.
I think Remco had other commitments anyway, but yeah.
But I think, well, if you're in it and you get a chance, if Jack's right and you win it, then you might as well, because I think he's doing a virtual 24-hour race. But it'll be finished by the time the race at home.
Just in between stints, do a Formula E race,
If he's got any, I think it'll finish. I think it starts at 3:00 in the afternoon, so therefore would finish 3:00 in the afternoon.
Is it 3:00 French time or
3:00 French time? So there'll be an
Okay,
hour.
so
there'll
he
be
will
an
have
hour
an hour,
difference to sort of rest up, and maybe he doesn't do the last stint so he can sleep. But anyway, I think that's mad in a sense. Like Kevin Siggy deserves...
He will be on pole though, because the grid order is determined by points collected across the 7 rounds of the challenge. So Kevin Siggy is in pole position for that final race.
And so that final race is definitely then to decide who. So will Kevin Siggy then get said, the sim race at Munich for the BMW M4 thing, or is that still up for grabs on Sunday as well?
I don't know. I think he's a dead set either way, to be honest. But yeah, given loose form at the moment,
I think that's rubbish. I think that is an absolute.
But it's just because they're not doing a quali session. That's why they're having this. Kevin Siggy's on pole.
What was it if he gets punted in the first corner? We've seen it. All they need to do is punt him out.
Well, you could say that about the FE drivers' race as well. Are they going to be gunning to crash out Verline and Van Dorn?
But the
just so that Hoover get a chance.
No one wins anything in the FE race. It doesn't matter. I'm telling you what now. If Gunther Van Dorn or Verline wins the championship, they will forget they won the championship in 5 minutes. Like, it's not important to them. Whereas for the sim races, this is important. If Kevin Siggy's dominated this championship, he should be the one driving that Formula E car and getting that sim opportunity in Munich for the wherever it is with the BMWs. Like, if for whatever reason Kevin Siggy, Ed, does not win that Formula E drive because something happens in that race on Sunday that takes him out of the race, or what happens if his internet goes? What happens if his internet connection goes and he disconnects? That's mental. That is not fair.
Well, I don't make the rules, Jack. I'm just reading them out.
I do kind of like it how I don't think Jack realised this was how it is. He's just realising it's on air, and so we're getting his genuine reaction from this.
Yeah,
this is fantastic.
To be fair, I just assumed, right, it was the exact same, right? I assumed that the FE race rules were the same as the sim race rules, right? In terms of, double points on Sunday and Saturday, right? Maybe I should have read them up, but, like, at the same time, the Formula E race is what people are more interested in. I know the sim race carries good weight in terms of a competition, but in terms of its competition now over the last couple of weeks, obviously Kevin Siggy's been absolute, consistent in every race. Joshua Wadras was probably his main competitor, but he's missed races, and Lucas Muller has really come on over these couple of races, but not in enough time for Kevin Siggy to get anywhere close to Kevin Siggy. So fair play Kevin Siggy, because boom, he deserves it, and if he doesn't get it for whatever reason, Ed, it is Formula, this race at home challenge has got to be chucked in the bin.
Wow, that's very harsh, Jack. And all the people who all those Studio 397 employees who put their hard work and time into getting these tests.
It's not their fault. It's not their fault. But come on, how can you do that to someone? How can someone put in 7 weeks worth of hard work and graft to get to a position where Kevin Siggy is, and then it's a lottery whether or not he wins or not?
Well, it keeps it interesting for the fans, I guess, because the end priority is entertainment, I guess. So, yeah.
I wouldn't participate.
You're not participating. You haven't.
If I was Kevin Siggy, like I'd be like, what is this? It's madness.
One thing it does kind of remind me of is the thing that they do in British Superbikes. I've forgotten what it's do, but they have like a 3-round showdown kind of thing where they kind of take the top 6, put them on 0, and then go from there. And whoever wins out of those, so there's 3 races. So whoever who wins out of the 9 races wins the championship. Might have got that wrong. Again, I don't know. I don't follow BSB close enough to know that. But yeah, no, I think it's something like that.
To be honest with you, in terms of the sim racers rules, I sort of looked at the rules for me to participate in, and I sort of didn't really go further from there. So I'm trying to get them up to see if what you're telling me is both right. But I find that mad. I find that absolutely mad. But what I want to move on to is I want to bring up some.
Yeah, to get you off the top of the ceiling. Yeah, let's move on.
So, Alexander Sims. I'm going to talk about Alexander Sims because what a legend this guy is, right? Doesn't have the biggest Twitch following on Twitch, but I was streaming his Twitch, and obviously there was a lot of revolt after the Alexander Sims thing. Daniel App thing, and Alexander Sims was like, you know what, people might not stream, but I like streaming. I know you just got to be careful about what you say and stuff, but I thought, what a legend. And he did really well, because he said someone who's not as competitive managed to navigate through the first corner mayhem, was up to P10, then fell back, let Gunther through as he was surging through the field, which then effectively eliminated Sims towards the end. But I thought it was really nice, you know, especially seeing someone like Alexander Sims stream. And you know, he probably only had about 50 views compared to Stoffel Van Dorn now. Stoffel Van Dorn had about 500, and we know how popular Jack Stoffel Van Dorn is. But I think it's great that we are seeing these drivers, and there is the possibility of, you know, watching these drivers and trying to get to know them a bit better. Sims was great. He was driving, asking questions, answering questions that people were answering in chat. And it was a really good way to, you know, we've had the privilege of talking to Alexander Sims, but it's a great way for fans to, you know, understand and get to know drivers like Alexander Sims, who is quite a quiet driver, much better.
Yeah, I'm not so sure if he should be answering questions whilst he's driving, because we did that to Remco a couple of weeks ago in Hong Kong, and he was about a second slower each lap. So you never know. I love Alex Sims, and the fact that he's answering questions from people, that's absolutely fantastic. He could find a second, though. I think if he didn't answer these questions, who knows? But no, I think it is absolutely fantastic that he's doing that. Yes, it's not to that many viewers, but yeah, no, that's good guy Alex Sims, which is not surprising whatsoever.
No, but it's nice that people. It's nice, and you feel like, man, this guy deserves, because, you know, all right, Formula 1 is Formula 1, right, in terms of streaming, right, in terms of, you know, your likes of Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, even Romain Grosjean was streaming iRacing yesterday, was hitting, you know, 3,000, you know, they're getting about 3,000 viewers. Charles Leclerc can get to 7,000, and, you know, depending on what they're streaming, both Norris and Leclerc can hit 30, 40, 50,000 easy. In terms of their streaming. So, and you're looking at Alexander Sims, he's such a nice guy, you just feel like this guy deserves just that bit more, like, in terms of the Formula Replugged, like, a lot of people weren't streaming, and, you know, even for me, Stoffel Van Dorn, this guy wins fan boost, like, no one wins fan boost, like, he's dominating it, but only gets about 500 on his stream. You'd think, man, if for Stoffel Van Dorn, you'd think he'd be in the thousands as well. So, my point is, Ed, it was great to just see the drivers still streaming despite the situation and still having fun with the fans.
Yeah, I didn't check. Did James Collada and Da Costa follow through on their threat not to stream?
I don't follow James Collada on Twitch, but I do follow Antonio Felix Da Costa, and Da Costa did not stream.
Fair enough. So it sounds like they did follow through. But yeah, Alex Sims, great guy, and you got to remember. I agree that he should have more people watching him, because remember, this is the guy who set up a relief fund for COVID, where he basically went and donated PPE equipment from race teams, and he got involved directly, driving the van around to donate that stuff. So yeah, and that was something he did just off his own back. He didn't really have to get involved, but he decided to step up to the plate, and so yeah, he's a have a go hero, really, I think, and that's his attitude to this whole sim racing thing. That, you know, I'm not a pro at this, but I'm gonna give it my best shot and gonna have some fun while I do it without being a dick to everyone, which sometimes some people seem to have an issue with at times.
Right. I hope from here, people watching on Saturday and Sunday, go to Alexander Sims's Twitch stream, because I know, this show in terms of on the podcast app gets about 100, just about 100 listens. The show, the snippets, they get about another couple of hundred. So if everyone can go, give Alexander Sims some support, give him some love and attention, because man, that guy deserves it. He's doing a great job on Twitch and not as many people are seeing it. So go on. So boys, I want to talk about just sort of looking ahead towards next weekend's race. Well, obviously, we're back to New York on Saturday and Berlin Sunday. But I want to mention something that Nikki Shields said, because I was already writing it down. Because she said, we're going to be announcing 2 new tracks. Well, she didn't say new, but she said we have 2 announcements to come for next week's track, and then had to quickly backtrack that statement. And I thought that was quite funny, Jack, because obviously we've been talking about DLCs for ages, and we were wondering whether there'd be 1, 2, 3, whether or not there'd be a DLC for the final round and do 2 races at that same place, whether that would be London or whatever Rome we were hoping for example. I think a lot of people were, in terms of official capacity, would really love to see Rome added to the game. But I found that very interesting how she sort of, teased that there would be something and then had to very quickly backtrack as someone shouted in her ear, obviously, no, nothing new is coming. Like, you might as well tell them that we're racing at Berlin and she's like, okay, we're gonna be racing Saturday at New York and Sunday at Berlin. Nothing really to announce. I just thought that was quite funny.
Yeah, no, I think it's disappointing that we're not going to another track. I think that's something that everyone wanted to see. Everyone wanted to see some new tracks. Well, and to be fair, we've been to Berlin twice. We've been to Hong Kong. No, we've been to Monaco twice. Sorry, Hong Kong twice. So we might as well go to New York and Berlin twice, as well as that one trip to Electric Docks as well. Yeah, no, it's disappointing because like I would have been really excited with London. I would have been really excited with Rome. And yeah, if Studio 397 continue working with Formula E and try to get these tracks onto R Factor after after this pandemic's over and stuff like that. So go to Rome when the Formula E's there and laser scan the track on like the Thursday or the Friday before, or sort of just something like that. And yeah, just do something like that. I think would be great.
And
then
what
release the bundle.
Ask.
And yeah, I think and yeah, hopefully we'll have a little thing that I can get on R Factor sometime soon.
Yeah, Ed, that's what I was going to ask. Like, human beings are silly creatures, let's face it, right? We're not the most cleverest when it comes to these types of things. And what I mean by that is, Formula E have obviously put a lot of effort at this precise moment into putting new tracks into R Factor 2 so they could do the championship. Once this championship's over next week, is that just going to stop? Are we just not going to care about R Factor 2? Are they going to go back into, well, we've done it, we're not going to do it anytime soon, so we might as well just leave it for a bit? Or do you think they're actually going to realise, like how most people in the world is changing with, the way people work now, and are Formula E going to go, actually we should continue and actually build something with R Factor 2 and have like a semi-official game? Or do you think they're just going to slip back into old ways?
I really hope that they do carry on with it. And I've said this before, I think, when you've asked me similar questions about what they're going to do going forward. But I think I think you could say, oh, well, look at this and say, oh, well, the only time people ever actually took any interest in Race at Home was with the whole Daniel App thing and the whole scandal behind that. And that just shows that people only care about it when things go wrong. They don't actually care about the racing and stuff, which I think is a bit misleading. I think there is an audience out there for it. It's just in terms of building up that audience, it doesn't come overnight. And I think you've got to actually put a bit of effort in to build up that audience and, give them what they want to see, which is good racing. It doesn't matter, who's doing it in most cases, or having Formula E drivers, of course, attracts that pre-existing audience that they already have. So it makes sense why they put so much effort into that. But I think in terms of just having experience for people to play, even just independent of whether there are any more competitions. I mean, who doesn't want to drive on, London, Paris, Rome, all these other great tracks and iconic locations that Formula E has? So I think they would be definitely missing a trick if they said, well, we've done this, let's just leave it, and like they did for 3 years beforehand.
Because what we understand for the reason simply why they haven't done it was money. Like, they just, someone who was working on the Formula E team in terms of the esports side of it before basically told us, like, the reason why there has been this massive gap between, the Vegas E race and the Race at Home Challenge in terms of something sim racing was just money. There was just no money for it. So, and obviously now they were forced to put money into it. So whether or not Formula are in that situation after COVID-19 to carry on doing that, who knows? But there's got to be. You'd want them to carry on. It's a very much like climate change at the moment. You get Alejandro Agag-Jack, mentioning, well, this is a wake up call. Everyone's so much happier right now that the air isn't as polluted, and there is another way that we can do this. And it's only been weeks. It's not been months. It's not been years. It's been weeks. Well, it has been months, but not many months, right? But it's been weeks, really, in terms of, and everyone's saying, look how much cleaner the air is, look how much, just because there's less cars on track. But as we get closer and closer to lockdown, and more cars are getting on the road, and obviously people are saying, hopefully this would be a wake-up call that we need to push towards electric vehicles. And we've had this discussion before about 2040. I think if the government really wanted to send this message, because obviously as soon as we go back to normal, all the cars are going to be back on the roads, all the buses, all trains, like everything's going to go back to normal because the infrastructure for electric cars is not there yet. So, how can you change something if you don't have the material to change it? But if the UK government came out today, or other governments who've said 2040 as a date for the stopping petrol cars, once they pushed that back 5 years and said, actually, from what we've learned, we should push this back to 2035 and really push on electric vehicles and get back to this cleaner environment. And I think, that's what, in terms of what a gag is hoping for, and maybe people at Formula E, that's what they want. They really want the governments now to come together and say, hey, look, we said 2040, but we've seen what it's like without cars during 2020. Could we potentially push this back? We'll push this forward in terms of ending petrol consumption and buying petrol cars earlier.
I think it's entirely possible. Yes. Whether they will do it, I'm not so sure. I don't think that we're going to go back to like how it was. I think everyone will be a little bit more aware now than they were before. But you said, like, we've been in this pandemic for months, and we have now. But the thing is, we saw changes after a couple of weeks. I mean, I remember about 2-3 weeks into lockdown, I remember seeing people say that COVID-19 has done more for climate change than Greta Thunberg ever did. And I'll be honest, that's probably true. And the changes that we have seen is fantastic. Yes, government should continue to push all the they should continue to push all the electric vehicles and try to make more of them on the road all the time. However, I don't think we will see a huge change. I think there will be a change to I think there will be a switch over towards the end of this decade where there will be a lot more electric cars now, on the road than there are now. But I think 2040 is still a good target. 2035, possibly, it might be possible, but 2040 is definitely a safer bet. But if we say 2035, it's probably going to be 2040. If we say 2040, it's going to be 2045 because that's how people work. They don't arrive on time. I don't arrive on time.
But the thing is, like, just before I go to Ed on this, like, in terms of, countries like Sweden, for example, and I know you're a big fan of Sweden and the Nordic countries, yeah, they're looking into banning petrol vehicles in this decade.
Yeah, no, I think that might be, I think that might be a good option. But yeah, I know Sweden are very good. I know that Volvo, they're only making electric cars now, I think, from this point forward. But Yeah, no, I think and the thing is, these Scandinavian countries, they've always kind of been on top of of like progressing stuff forward, and that's what I love. I love the Scandinavian countries so much. I do have a favourite, but yeah, no,
Gee, I wonder which one
they're
it
always quite
is.
good.
Sweden, for those who are listening on the podcast apps. But I suppose, Ed, that's the problem that I said earlier. Then when humans are just creatures of habits and they go back into their old ways. Like it's so easy that we'll learn nothing from this and we'll just go back to normal, and then 2040 will be here, and we'll be clutching at straws.
Yeah, and I think back to the Paris Climate Accords in 2015, and that was a big deal at the time that they got all these world leaders to sign up to this emissions reducing pledge. And then, of course, what happened was a few years later, there was a new president of the United States, and he decided he didn't like his country being signed up to the Paris Climate Accords, and so he pulled out. And yeah, it's a sort of kind of, I feel like all that optimism and all that, it didn't really lead to anything, the Paris Climate Accords. And so I feel there's a lot of potential for this whole COVID-19 of, oh, we've really had to think about the way that we do things. And I was like, just kidding, let's go back to burning fossil fuels and pleasing the Koch brothers and all the other, is it Koch brothers? You know who I mean, the fossil fuel guys.
What I want to move on to just before we wrap up the show is that there was a new story coming out about how we could end this season, and I thought it was very interesting because obviously we've been touting going to Berlin, but they're talking about Berlin doing 6 races. Now when I saw that, I was like, well, that can't be right, or that must be last resort if the Formula E have been in contact, and they still are in contact with race circuits like Portimao, Valencia, and we've discussed that at length. But Jack, 6 races at Berlin, yes, they might be able to change the track layout, but whether or not that will get FIA ratification and, be allowed to participate and do that in such a short period of time, I think it's optimistic. I think it's great. Yes, you can have Berlin as a hub, but if you do 6 races at the same track, I think after the 3rd or 4th one, you start to get a bit boring.
Yeah, no, I'm not so sure about Formula One doing 2 races back to back, but I think that's also the format that they do, because they have all the practice on Friday and then practice quality Saturday, then race on Sunday, and that 2 weeks in a row at the same track I don't think will work. But with Formula E's layout, double headers work, but I can't imagine doing that 3 weeks in a row at the same track. I just don't think it would work that well at all. I think their best bet is to have a double header in Berlin, yeah. And harking back 35 shows ago, I said Berlin and Valencia will end out the season, and who knows, maybe throw a Donington Park in there as well, because the thing is, I think this whole scenario is ending kind of a lot quicker than we thought it would, because we're seeing IndyCar go back to racing this weekend. Formula One are going to be back in about a month's time. MotoGP, they're set to have their first races in Jerez at the end of July. So they're actually going back to it quite a lot quicker, and so maybe having a racing Donington at the end of August, then heading to Berlin and then Valencia is actually feasible.
I think it's a good idea, Ed, but I think it must be a last resort thing. I can't see it. And plus, what about this event thing? Like, we went to Saudi Arabia and we had 2 races there, but that counted as one event, so that's not a race. Like, what about this event thing that we're currently talking about with the FIA rules?
Yeah, exactly. It's a little unclear how if the FIA can give them dispensation if they hold them all at Berlin to have it. Oh, it counts as a season, even though you only had 5 different places that you held races at. But anyway, I'm thinking more on a logistical point of view in terms of they're obviously, if it's a TV only sort of event, it's behind closed doors essentially, so the fans can't come in, and there's a limit on how many personnel they can actually bring to the circuit, and that's going to be the teams, the drivers, and cameramen and sort of officials. They can just run the race, the bare minimum, and they just about can keep it under the mandatory number. I'm not sure how many staff it is, but But yeah, that means that things like photographers, lots of PR and media people may miss out actually as a result. So it's not good news for them if they go through this.
No, not at all. So it'll be interesting to see, but as I said, I think that must be a last resort thing that Formula E come to. Let's see. We don't know. There's obviously many permutations that Formula E will be looking into. But boys, we're coming to the end of the show. But one thing I want to mention in the UK is And We Go Green. I think just a quick mention of this. Tomorrow. So if you haven't... Tomorrow, if you're an insomniac and want to wait till midnight and watch it live, or you could record it because I think it's going out at midnight on Tuesday the 2nd, so great time, great viewing time for Formula E. Not prime time action for sure, but that is going out on the 2nd of June at midnight. So feel free in the UK to watch it. If you're not in the UK now, we know we have lots of people who are not in the UK who listen to the show. 8th of June, but we will do a show to sort of wrap up sort of our opinions to it. We can either wait to listen to that, or you can listen to it and hopefully that gets you hyped up to watch it. Boys, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Cheers, Jack. Be good while I'm away, you two.
Yes. So, if you have been enjoying the content, please remember to hit that like and subscribe button. And if you want to come and join us, it's so great at the moment to see so many people joining the Discord server. It puts a smile on all of our faces, and it is absolutely fantastic to get to know every single one of you. Please, hit that Discord link. Come and join us. Come and join the chat about Formula E and other random things that we're talking about. But it's really good fun. I'm really enjoying it. Thank you so much for watching. You've been watching the FEZ show. I don't know why. Goodbye.